Between the ages of 12 and 30, Jesus completely disappears from the biblical record. No stories, no miracles, no teachings, no explanations. For the most influential figure in human history, this silence is shocking. We are told about his birth, his childhood, and the moment he astonishes scholars in the temple at age 12. And then suddenly, everything goes quiet. 18 full years pass before Jesus reappears, fully prepared to begin his mission. The question is unavoidable: what really happened during those missing years, and why was it never explained? The Gospel of Luke gives us the final official glimpse of young Jesus when he is 12 years old, sitting among religious teachers, listening and asking questions, astonishing them with his understanding. Even his parents are confused by his wisdom. After that moment, Luke summarizes nearly 2 decades of life with a single sentence, saying that Jesus grew in wisdom, stature, and favor with God and man. That one line covers 18 years of silence. No Roman records mention him. No Jewish texts describe him. No eyewitness accounts survive. For comparison, even lesser figures from that era left behind more historical traces. This gap is not normal, and it raises serious questions. Some scholars believe this silence was not accidental. Early church leaders focused heavily on Jesus' divine mission, his crucifixion, and his resurrection. His personal development did not serve the structure of doctrine they wanted to establish. Any writings that hinted at a more human journey were considered unnecessary or even dangerous. Several early Christian texts, known today as apocryphal Gospels, were excluded from the Bible. These writings described alternative details about Jesus' life and teachings, details that did not align neatly with church authority. Over time, only the parts that supported official theology were preserved, and everything else faded into silence. One of the most discussed theories suggests that Jesus may have traveled far beyond Israel during those missing years. Ancient trade routes connected the Middle East to Egypt, Persia, and even India. Some traditions from the East speak of a spiritual teacher known as Isa, who taught compassion, humility, and inner transformation. The similarities between these teachings and Jesus' later message are striking. While historians debate the reliability of these accounts, the idea itself raises an uncomfortable question. If Jesus learned from other spiritual traditions, would religious institutions want that widely known? Another powerful theory places Jesus among the Essenes, a secluded Jewish sect living near the Dead Sea. The Essenes lived disciplined lives, shared their possessions, studied sacred texts intensely, and waited for a coming Messiah. Many of their beliefs closely matched the teachings Jesus later preached, including humility, purity of heart, rejection of materialism, and deep spiritual discipline. The Dead Sea Scrolls reveal that the Essenes possessed advanced theological knowledge not taught in mainstream Judaism. If Jesus spent years among them, it would explain his deep understanding of Scripture, his moral authority, and his calm confidence when he began preaching. There is also a reason Jesus began his ministry at exactly 30 years old. In Jewish tradition, 30 was the age at which a man could officially assume spiritual leadership. Priests began their service at 30. Teachers were expected to reach maturity before guiding others. Jesus did not rush into his mission. He waited. That delay suggests preparation, discipline, and intention. 18 years of silence followed by a perfectly timed emergence does not feel accidental. It feels deliberate. If Jesus spent those years learning outside the temple system, developing spiritually rather than publicly, it would change how faith itself is understood. Faith would become a journey of growth rather than instant perfection. And institutions built on authority rarely benefit from encouraging questions. It is easier to focus on miracles than on preparation, easier to teach belief than transformation. So instead of explaining the silence, it was ignored. The missing years do not weaken the story of Jesus. They make it more powerful. They suggest that wisdom is developed, not given instantly. They show that even the greatest spiritual figure prepared in silence before stepping into purpose. Jesus did not appear suddenly enlightened. He became who he was meant to be. And that may be the lesson history never wanted us to explore. Where Jesus was for those 18 years may never be fully proven, but the silence itself speaks loudly. It tells a story of growth, learning, and preparation that challenges simple narratives. If this mystery changes how you see the story of Jesus, then you are beginning to understand why those years were never explained.